So I saw the second Joker movie 2 nights ago, and I've had this theory and I have no one to talk about it with because no one's seen it yet. So I'm gonna make this video because I feel like I'm right, okay? I know it's my theory, but I feel like I'm right. But basically, I don't think that Harley was real. I think that Harley was just in the Joker's imagination, and I think that like real life Harley was really that dude in the prison. I looked it up and his name's Ricky Meline. Though when I look it up, like nothing shows up. Like, I feel like it even took me some work to even figure out who the actor was. But I think that's what's going on. Here's my thoughts on Joker 2 overall. First of all, I did not know that it was going to be a musical. So I walked in there, I'd only seen the trailer. I heard that it received a standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival. But I also heard that critics said it sucked. I didn't read like the actual reviews or anything, but that's just what I walked into Joker 2 knowing. So I was there, and then they started singing, man. Well, I don't think they started singing right away. I think first it was like he's in prison and stuff, and it was really interesting. You know, they have this case and they're trying to plead that he's got this split personality. Actually, it started with this cartoon about like Joker in his shadow, like Joker in my shadow. So it's like this kind of split personality thing. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And how they're going to try and plead that into trial and say that he doesn't belong in jail. He needs to go to like a medical facility to be treated for having this split personality because he didn't actually commit the murders that happened in the first Joker movie. So when the Joker's going to go meet his lawyer, he passes by this room, and that's where he sees Harley Quinn, Lady Gaga, and she's out there singing. She's like, "What's up?" She didn't say what's up, but she was, she gave him that look that said what's up, and she was like, pfft. And you know how like in the first movie, he liked that girl that all said, pfft. But turns out that wasn't real. At least I don't think so. I don't think that girl actually did that. And so it's like, did Harley even really do that? I don't know. And so then he stops and he looks back. Basically, the guards end up making this deal where now he can go to singing class. So then he goes to the singing class, and that's when he talks to Lee. And also throughout the whole movie, I was so confused because I was like, why is her name Lee? Because I kept being like, no, her name's Harvey. I don't know why I kept thinking that her name was Harvey, but it's Harley, but they don't call her Harley, they call her Lee. So that was also like kind of confusing to me. But basically he meets Harley, and then they just sing like a bunch of songs. There's so many songs in this movie, bruh. I did not know that it was going to be a musical. I was baffled. And it wasn't original songs. It was like songs that my dad would sing at karaoke. Like it was literally like my dad's roster of like all his favorite songs. And it was also kind of weird because they would just randomly burst into song. Like they would just be like in a conversation and it'd be like, fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. And it's like, why are we singing? I don't know. It was kind of weird. Like, I don't know. And at first I was like totally like trying to roll with it. You know, I didn't want to be a hater. I was trying to roll with it. And I was even like, oh, okay. So like, this is a musical, and it's kind of like La La Land. So maybe it's like La La Land walked so Joker could run. But then it was just like a lot of songs. At some point it was almost like obnoxious, like bruh. And then even at the end, right? Oh wait, I guess I was telling the story. Let me go back to the story. So they do the trial, right? They do the trial, and at first, man, I really went off at the tangent. I'm really passionate about like how weird it was that there was so much singing. But so they go through the trial, and at first Arthur Fleck, who's the Joker, he's just kind of like himself. So it was like weird because in the beginning, he didn't really speak that much. He was just kind of there, and then the guards would be like, hey, Arthur, you gonna tell us a joke? And then he'd just be quiet. And I remember like for a little bit, I was like, hey, is he ever gonna say anything? Or is this like some kind of silent movie type beat? And then he started talking. But basically when he was like in the beginning, when he was Arthur Fleck, I do think he has the split personality. But in the beginning, he was Arthur Fleck. And then throughout the movie, he like like becomes more Joker, or like the Joker character comes out more, and that's when he talks more. And so I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe before the beginning of the movie he was talking more and like telling jokes, and that's why the guards were saying that. But then like when we started Joker 2, it was Arthur Fleck. And so throughout the trial, it starts off with like Arthur Fleck, and he's just kind of sitting there through the trial. At some point they interview that girl that he thought was his girlfriend in the first movie, and she talks about like how she talked to his mom, and the mom said that he had a dumb laugh, and that she told him that it was because he was brought to this world to make people happy, and then he made it his whole personality by becoming a clown, and like what a joke, like he's so like what a fool, you know? And that was really messed up. That was hurtful, man. But I guess he's also a murderer. But like, man, that sucked. And so I felt for Arthur. I was like, damn, bruh. And so he was also like, damn, bruh, like this kind of sucks. And so it was like at that point, Arthur Fleck kind of like hid away in this partition in his brain, and then like the Joker came out, because then he became more like, he talked more, and he just like acted completely different. And then he fired his lawyer. He wanted to represent himself. He was like talking all kinds of stuff. And then they brought on Puddles, bruh. Do you remember Puddles? I don't even think they called him Puddles in the first one, but it was his friend Gary from the first movie who was like basically like, hey, like what you did when you did that in front of me like really traumatized me. It was really sad. The guy who played Puddles, his name's Mr. Puddles, Gary Puddles. And they made like a whole joke about it. But man, the guy who played Gary Puddles acted his ass out, bruh. He was out there doing his thing, and I was like, damn, I really feel for Puddles right now. Honestly, Puddles kind of stole the show. So then he represents himself. Puddles does his testimony. It was really sad. At the end, they're gonna call his verdict. So when they were calling his verdict, I was like, oh, okay. So Joker that I know, like he's gonna have all these adventures with Batman. Then they started saying he was guilty, like guilty on the first count, guilty on the second count. And I was like, oh, okay, but the last one's gonna be like not guilty because of some, I don't know, some reason that's gonna be revealed, like that's the twist. And then instead of it being revealed that he's not guilty, the courtroom blows up. Well, not blows up, like a wall blows up. And then he's able to escape, and then he gets with these dudes who are like his fans. They get him in a car and they're gonna, you know, help him get out. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is how Joker becomes Joker, and he starts like terrorizing Batman. Like this is the plan, this is it. But then he gets out of the car and the guys are like, yo, hey, like stay in the car, what's going on? Hey, they're gonna get you. And he goes on foot to the stairs, you know, the stairs where he does the little dance. So he goes there, and then he sees Harley. Oh, I didn't even tell you about Harley. But basically Harley's been here the whole time, but I feel like no one really acknowledges her. And that's why I think she's not real. Like she was in the singing class, and I feel like no one really acknowledged her. And then she also walked into his courtroom because she was like, I'm gonna see you in court. And she walked into the courtroom, and then no one acknowledged her. She like sat in the back. I was even watching because I already had this feeling that she wasn't real and she was just in his head. I forgot why, but like it just didn't feel real, man, because I was like, how are they even like seeing each other? And then at some point she visits him in his cell because she asked the guards if she could, and I'm like, there's no way this is real because he's confined because of murdering all these people. Why would they randomly let another prisoner just go into his cell so she could put makeup on him? She put makeup on him, and then they started, you know, and it's like, how does that even happen? That's why I was like, this can't be real. Then his lawyer also said, oh, like she's this rich girl, like she didn't actually burn her parents' apartment down, because that was her story. Her story was she burned her parents' apartment down, and so her mom had her committed. Oh wait, is this not a jail? Is it a mental hospital? I don't know. I feel like that's irrelevant. But then she's like, she checked herself out voluntarily, but then the guards let her have this special visit with the Joker to put makeup on him and make a baby. Like, what? And then there was also this one scene, because they kept going to these like fantasy scenes where they'd be singing and they'd be like in a show. But then after one of these singing scenes, it went back to the Joker in the like jail yard, and he was sitting on these bleachers with this other prisoner, this guy whose name is apparently Ricky, right? Ricky Moline. So he was sitting with him, and then the guards are like, hey, who told you could sit on these bleachers? These are our bleachers. And so they were on the bleachers after the singing scene. And so that's when I was like, oh, So he just had this musical number with Lee, and now he's sitting at the bleachers with this other prisoner guy in real life. So that's when I was like, hey, I think that's Lee. And I think Lee's not like real. And so that's when I paid more attention with how people interacted with Lee. And then when she walked into the courtroom and no one acknowledged her, that's when I was like, okay, so Lee's not real. Like, this is totally like in his head. And I feel like that's kind of what the movie was, just showing his mental illness and like kind of what it was like in his brain, to where you don't really know what's real. And I feel like that was the vibe. And I feel like that is what would save this movie from being too weird for me to understand. Because I feel like if Harley's real and the story really played out the way it did, it's just like too wild that I'm like, dude, like what is happening here? But if we take into consideration that Lee is actually the like real life, not real life, but you know, like the reality prisoner that was with him, then it makes more sense that, you know, she wasn't real. Because then at the end, right? Okay, so remember how I said he goes to the stairs to meet Lee? He goes there and then she's like, I don't like you anymore. You said that Joker, she's like a Joker fan. She was like, you said that Joker doesn't exist. Like Joker is not real. It's just you. And I don't like that. So you broke the fantasy and I'm breaking up with you. And then he gets arrested and taken back to the jail / mental hospital. And so that's what happened. So that was weird, because they were like promoting like them like dancing on the stairs and stuff. Because look, what I thought this movie was going to be about was like, oh, like Joker and Harley's adventures. You know, what are Joker and Harley going to be up to? They're going to be, you know, up to all these shenanigans, and like how are they going to get Joker out of jail or out of this trial or out of the mental asylum place? Like, how are they going to get him out? It's going to be like some crazy twist. Like, they're so smart how they do it. You know, I thought that was the vibe from what I've seen and known before. But instead at the end, she's like, yeah, I don't like you. After she also said earlier that she's pregnant. And then she's like, yeah, I don't want to be with you because you said the Joker doesn't exist. And I only like the Joker. So that was weird. And so then he gets arrested, taken back to jail. And then they name him guilty. And so then he's back in the jail. And then that guy, Ricky, okay, so Ricky's been like kind of in the background of the movie this whole time. Like, they don't have much interaction with each other, but I feel like when they would show these jail scenes, like my eyes would just go to this Ricky guy. And I didn't even know his name was Ricky. I had to look it up after, because there's just like no interaction. I don't think they introduce him. But for some reason my eyes would go to him and I was like, why do my eyes keep going to him? I don't know. Am I like weird? I don't know. But in the end, he's back in jail. The guards are like, hey, you have a visitor. And so he's like all geeked out. He's like, oh, it's gonna be my girl Lee. Like, she's coming back to take me back. She's not really breaking up with me. And then on the way there, this guy Ricky confronts him and he's like, hey, you wanna hear a joke? And he's like, what, I forgot what it was. It was like something like, what do you get when a psychopath, basically, I feel like he was telling the story of the movie. He was like, a psychopath walks into a bar to meet his idol. So I think he's talking about like him, Ricky, the psychopath, went to Arkham. Is this Arkham Asylum? Went to this place to see the Joker because he's a fan and he loves him and like idolizes him. But then as he got to know Arthur, he realized, hey, like he's not really who I thought he was. Like, I'm not really a fan. He's just Arthur Fleck and he's kind of lame with it. And so he's like, you get what you deserve, which is a callback from the first one. And then he spoiler alert, he like stabs him in the stomach. And I was like, whoa, hold up. Like, is he about to die right now? Because he like stabs him like a lot in his stomach and then he falls and bleeds out. And I'm pretty sure he died. So now I'm like, wait, like, I was like, no, like is his fantasy or he's gonna somehow miraculously heal from these fatal wounds? Like, what's going on? But then it just kind of ends with him dying. And so then I was a little bit shook because I was like, wait, what about the adventures with Batman? What about all that? Like, is that not happening? Is that not this Joker? So Harley breaks up with him. She didn't even really like him. She just sang all these songs with him. And now he just gets killed by this guy. And then there's more songs at the end. There's like more solo musical songs as the credits roll. And it was kind of like, huh. And I don't know. And I feel like if that's the reality, I'm just not happy with it. So I'm going to live in this other reality that I have, where my theory is that Ricky is actually Harley. Harley never existed. Harley was just in his head, and like he would spend this time with Ricky, but like in his head, he would really be singing these songs with Lee. And I think that when he had that encounter in his cell, either the encounter in his cell was like totally fake and fantasy, or the encounter in his cell was really with Ricky. Because I don't understand how Lee could get into his cell, but Ricky was like in the same area as him. So I guess I could see somehow how they could end up in the same place to, you know, do the deed. But yeah, I think that's what was going on. That's my theory. Because anybody agree with me? I tried to look it up after I watched it, but I also went to an early screening, so all I saw was like critics talking about it, and no one really talked about it. But I really think that Lee wasn't real. It was just in his head. It was really Ricky, and then Ricky ends up killing him. But I did see online someone said that Ricky is the real Joker. So Arthur Fleck as Joker wasn't really Joker. The real Joker is Ricky, who kills Arthur Fleck and then carves the smile on his face. And then that's the real Joker, who's going to be having the adventures with Batman. And people were saying that made more sense too, because in this Joker timeline, if Arthur Fleck really was Joker with this Batman in his like world, then by the time that Batman is Batman, because at this point, Batman's like a little kid. So by the time that Batman's like Batman age, like Arthur Fleck's gonna be like some geriatric Joker. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense that Ricky's the real Joker and not Arthur Fleck. But then it's like, what were we doing this whole time? I don't know, I thought it was still like cool. I think that the movie was cool if it really is what I interpret it to be, which is showing his struggle with this like mental illness of these like fragmented parts in himself, and he doesn't know what's real and what's not. And so like we as the audience also don't know what's real and what's not, and like you're kind of like experiencing it with him. In that way, I feel like I like the movie. But if that's not really what it was, and Lee was real and they really did have all those shenanigans, and then she just like broke up with him, and then he just, you know, gets stabbed by some guy at the place. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a letdown. And I already talked about it before, but man, why were there so many songs? I did not walk into this thing thinking it was a musical. It was just a lot. And I feel like we could have cut some, you know? It felt like every 5 minutes. And the movie's so long. I think the movie was like 2.5 hours. And I feel like more than half of it was just songs. It was just a lot. Oh, and it was so funny, dude. At the end, right, when he's on the stairs with Harley and she's like, I don't even like you anymore. You're not even Joker. You're just, I don't like you because I liked the crazy Joker guy, and that's not you. First of all, that's messed up. But she starts singing. She starts singing. I don't even know what she sings, but she starts singing like, I'm gonna build a mountain. I don't know what she sings, but she starts singing, and he's like, hey, stop singing. I want to talk. Like, stop singing. And I thought that was so funny because I was like, Joker, like, same. Like, why are we singing so much? I just thought that was so funny. He's like, stop singing, stop it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Joker, and I really needed to get that out. But maybe it's like, maybe the movie's just whatever I interpret it to be for myself, you know? And I feel like maybe that could give me peace of mind.